You ever see a 78-year-old man hook a luxury black SUV to an old John Deere tractor and then slowly, deliberately drag the whole thing straight into a swollen, muddy creek while the county sheriff stood right there, arms crossed, just filming the whole damn thing? Yeah, that really happened, and it wasn't even the craziest part of the story. It all started with one woman, one shiny, arrogant SUV, and one Thursday morning on the ranch that was supposed to be nothing but peaceful. It was late spring, the sky was bright, the air was cool, the kind of morning where you can smell the dew and the diesel mixing together, and it just smells like Hawthorne Ranch. My grandpa, Silas, had been up since dawn, same as always, feeding the cows and checking the perimeter fences. Me, I was Ethan, and I was waiting on the hay truck. We'd ordered 3 bales worth for the week, and the driver was due any minute, rattling up the old county road that cuts right through our 200 acres. Only problem was, when I stepped out to open the main gate, I froze. There it was, a shiny, spotless black SUV, parked dead center across our entire entrance. Not off to the side, not angled politely on the gravel, right across the gate like it genuinely owned the 20 feet of dirt beneath it. I just stood there, one hand still holding my coffee cup, watching the sunlight glint off that chrome bumper. You ever have one of those moments where something so utterly ridiculous happens that your brain just refuses to accept the reality of it? That was me. Behind me, I heard Silas's old leather boots crunching on the gravel. He came out of the barn wiping his hands on an oil-stained rag, squinting against the sun. "What in the blue hell is that contraption?" he muttered, the question more a statement of disbelief. I told him I didn't know. Maybe someone was lost, maybe a surveyor or a realtor checking parcels again. The kind of folks who drift in from the city and forget where they are. He grunted the way he always did when he knew I was wrong. "Lost folks don't block a man's gate that perfect, Ethan," he said. "And that ain't a work truck. That's a city woman's vanity machine." He glanced at the watch strapped to his weathered wrist. "Hay truck's coming in 2 hours. If it can't get through, those cattle are going to raise more hell than this fool can imagine." That line landed heavy, because he was right. If the truck had to turn around, we'd lose a delivery slot, we'd lose half a day's feed, and out here, half a day meant hungry cattle and money lost. So, I walked toward the SUV, slow and deliberate, hands visible, polite, the way Silas taught me to handle trouble. Assume ignorance first, malice second. The tinted window slid down, smooth and quiet, and out came the face that would haunt the next 3 weeks of my life. She looked mid-50s, hair pulled tight, large sunglasses perched like armor, the kind of person who smelled exactly like lavender and entitlement. When she spoke, her voice had that brittle, synthetic sweetness people use right before they say something unforgivably ugly. "Morning," she said, not as a greeting, but as a cool, challenging pronouncement. "You're blocking a public access road." I blinked, trying to process the sheer audacity. "Ma'am, this here's private property. Been in my family, the Thompsons, the Hawthorns, for 100 years. This is our main driveway." She smiled slow and cold, the kind of smile that never touches the eyes. "Not according to Pine Creek redevelopment. This area is under community review now. You might want to check your boundaries." Boundaries? That word hit harder than it should have. I looked down at the dust on my boots, then up at her spotless, chrome-rimmed tires. And right then, I felt it. The quiet, internal shift between peace and absolute provocation. Before I could reply, Silas's old Ford rumbled closer. He stopped beside me, leaning out the window. "Everything all right, Ethan?" I nodded toward the SUV. "This lady says our driveway is public property." He smiled then, but it wasn't a friendly smile. It was the kind of grin you see on a man who's about to start taking meticulous mental notes for a long, drawn-out fight. "Is that right?" he said, tipping his worn canvas hat toward her. "Well, ma'am, you're parked on Hawthorne land, and we don't do well with squatters." She huffed, rolled up her window, and drove off. The dust trailed behind her, but the way she looked back in her mirror, that smug, calculated stare, told me she'd be coming back. Silas finished his coffee, crushed the paper cup, and said quietly, "Ethan, that wasn't a mistake. That was a test." He walked back toward the barn, muttering to himself, "You mark my words, boy. This ain't the last we've seen of that woman. And when she comes back, she's bringing paperwork." The next morning, I thought maybe it had all blown over. But around 10:30, I heard it again. The low, smug hum of a high-end SUV engine rolling over our gravel road like it owned the very sound of it. Same black SUV, same perfect, challenging spot right across our entrance. She got out this time, black heels sinking slightly into the soft dirt, a laminated clipboard held in hand like it was an official badge of office. Laura Vance. Morning, I said, flat and quiet. Lost again. She smiled without humor. Not lost. Just documenting encroachments. Encroachments. Yes. According to Pine Creek redevelopment, the Hawthorne Ranch fence line extends 3 feet into the proposed public access corridor. That's a violation of recorded easement standards. I stared at her, thinking, how does she keep a straight face saying this stuff? You mind stepping back, ma'am? You're parked on our access road, and you're trespassing. She ignored me completely, raising her phone to snap photos of our gate, our mailbox, even Silas's old Ford. These structures will likely need to be removed, she announced. I couldn't help but laugh, dry and sharp. Ma'am, that mailbox has been there longer than you've been alive. She smirked. Then it's probably due for replacement. Silas walked up slow. Morning, ma'am. I'm Silas Hawthorne, owner of this land. You'll want to take this up with my office, Mr. Hawthorne. I'm Laura Vance, Regional Director for Pine Creek Redevelopment. I oversee compliance, infrastructure, and zoning integrity. Silas nodded once. Big words for a little road. We're building a community here. The county approved our preliminary surveys. That means shared access. Silas's smile didn't reach his eyes. Ma'am, I was born on this ranch in 1947. My father built that fence. His father dug that creek with a mule and shovel. We've never shared it with anyone who didn't earn the right. She bristled. Progress doesn't stop for nostalgia, Mr. Hawthorne. He leaned closer, his voice dropping to a near whisper. Neither does common sense, ma'am. And you might want to remember, nostalgia is what keeps a man from paving over history. Her jaw tightened. She spun on her heel, got back in her SUV, and drove off. But before turning onto the county road, she stopped, rolled her window down, and delivered her final, quiet threat. You'll be hearing from my office, Mr. Hawthorne. Officially, for the next 2 weeks, the harassment was a relentless routine. She'd show up, block the gate, take pictures, and make me late. I started filming her every time, logging the dates, the times, the position of the vehicle. Evidence, evidence, evidence. Silas's constant advice was, don't rise to it. Let her build her own case file of stupidity. The law takes time, but the land has patience, too. But by the start of week 3, her routine turned cruel. That Monday, we got the first rain in weeks. I had just finished clearing out a new drainage ditch we dug to keep Sweetwater Creek from flooding the lower pasture. Around noon, I heard the familiar low engine. Instead of parking at the gate, she pulled forward, right through the soft, freshly dug ditch line. Her tires dug deep, spinning violently, clawing a deep, ugly rut straight through the new trench. Water splashed, mud flew everywhere, and by the time she reversed, half the bank was gone. Silas didn't shout, didn't storm out, just stood there in the steady rain, watching her drive away like she'd won a prize. When she was gone, he knelt down and dipped his hand into the muddy, swirling water. You know what this is, Ethan, he said finally. Water, I muttered, still angry. He shook his head. It's evidence, and she just wrote her name in it. That night, my cousin Maya, who had a law degree, drove out from town. She started drafting a formal trespass and property damage notice. Silas looked up at her. You're good at law, Maya, but you ever notice that people like her don't fear paper? They fear embarrassment. Maya paused. Meaning what, Silas? She's not done yet. And when she comes back, we'll let her show the whole county who she really is. 2 days after Karen tore up our ditch, a certified envelope showed up in our mailbox. Return address, Pine Creek Redevelopment. They were threatening to sue, claiming our fence violated a county setback, and they were asserting easement rights through Sweetwater Creek. Silas led us out to the old workshop. He dragged out a small wooden chest containing every deed and survey since 1923. He unrolled a large, brittle map across the workbench. Look here, he said, tracing a winding blue line labeled Sweetwater Creek. Property boundary, Hawthorne Ranch. This document says we own 20 feet beyond both banks. Mineral, water, and access rights recorded and notarized. Maya's eyes flashed. This is from 1950. Original hydrographic record. Silas, this is gold. No, honey. This is truth. Gold's only worth what folks agree on. Truth stands whether they agree or not. She realized their fraud. They used a new overlay. Someone redrew the boundaries. They changed the map first, then pretend the land followed. We spent the next hour photographing every inch of the original deed. Maya filed the copies with the county. Truth stands whether they agree or not. Now that's filed, Silas said. We moved to Phase 2, Operation Mud Lesson. After lunch, we hauled out chains, a post driver, and a hand-painted wooden sign in big black letters. Private property. Abandoned vehicles will be removed after 72 hours. TX Property Code 683. They love to think we're the crazy ones, so we give them paperwork, procedure, and patience. Everything nice and legal, he instructed. Later, Sheriff Bob Johnson stopped by. You're doing it right, Silas. If she parks there again, you log the hours. After 72, she's fair game under the code. I'll even come out to witness it if needed. Might take you up on that, Bob, Silas nodded. Control's just another word for timing. The next morning, the clock started. At 9:14 a.m., she came back. Same black SUV, same smug stillness. Silas sat on the porch, notebook in hand. He wrote, April 19th, 9:14 a.m. vehicle obstructing gate. He didn't move. Karen got out, demanding he respect the county's review of our easement. Silas didn't even blink. Ma'am, you're on private land. You've been warned. The sign's right there, big enough to read, even for city folks. She climbed back into her SUV and sat there, engine idling, windshield wipers keeping rhythm with her ego. The second day, the rain came harder. Sweetwater Creek swelled. Karen's SUV was still there, now coated with streaks of mud. She tried to move it, but the clay had its own kind of justice. When I walked out to check the sign, she rolled down her window just enough to speak. You're harassing me. This is a legal obstruction. I pointed at the sign. No, ma'am. This is Texas law. You left your vehicle here. In about 36 hours, it'll be legally ours to remove. You wouldn't dare. Silas's voice came like thunder without lightning. Ma'am, I don't dare. I document. She revved her engine, but the truck didn't move an inch. Then she slammed it into park, rolled the window up, and furiously called someone. The clock didn't stop for phone calls. By the third day, the rain had turned Sweetwater Creek into a small brown river. The SUV sat crooked, one wheel half sunk into mud. Silas made his last entry. April 22nd, 9:15 a.m., 72 hours complete. He capped his pen. All right, Ethan, he said. Time's up. You calling the sheriff? I asked. Already did, he said. Told Bob to bring his camera, too. Man should witness what happens when arrogance meets property code. He looked at the gate one last time. You give people rope, Ethan, and sooner or later they'll tie their own knot. Sheriff Bob Johnson pulled up. Well, Silas, he said over the wind. Looks like your 72 hours just ran out. Laura stepped out of her SUV, heels sinking immediately, umbrella snapping backward in the wind. You can't touch my car. This is harassment. The sheriff held up his hand. Ma'am, it's been 72 hours. Mr. Hawthorne's within his rights to remove it. You'll have to pay for the tow. Silas tilted his head. Oh, don't you worry. I brought my own tow. He turned to me. Ethan, start the tractor. The John Deere came to life with a deep, throaty growl. Silas walked behind it, chain in hand. Laura screamed over the storm. You'll damage it. Sheriff Bob said dryly. That's what happens when you park illegally in Texas clay. Silas crouched, hooked the heavy chain under the SUV's rear axle, then gave me one nod. I eased the throttle forward. The chain went taut, then sang that high metallic note. The SUV lurched, groaned, and then with a sucking sound, it started to move. Laura screamed, Stop! That's private property. Silas didn't even look at her. You're right, ma'am. It's mine. You're standing on it. The tractor dragged the SUV backward, mud flying. It slid another few feet, metal groaning. Laura ran toward the sheriff. He's insane. Do something. Sheriff Bob adjusted his hat. He's following state property code, ma'am. You want to file a complaint? I suggest you bring a better map. When the SUV reached the edge of the swollen creek, Silas signaled, Stop. He turned to the sheriff. Bob, you got all you need for the report. Every photo, every word, Johnson said. Silas nodded. Good. Then we'll finish this properly tomorrow once the paperwork dries. Laura blinked, confused. You're leaving it here for now? Silas said. Let nature think about it overnight. That night, the rain didn't stop. By sunrise, Sweetwater Creek was a full-blown river. The black SUV was half submerged, mud bubbling around the tires. Around 8, Sheriff Bob returned with the county tow truck. Laura arrived in a sleek black sedan. You people are insane. You're letting my car drown. Silas's voice was calm and steady. Destruction is what you did to my drainage. This here's correction. You'll pay for this, old man. Silas's eyes narrowed. I already did. Impatience. The tow truck driver hesitated, but Silas stepped forward, motioning for me. Bring the tractor around, Ethan. Low gear. Don't rush it. It's just gravity's helper, son. That's all. The rain stung my face as I climbed into the tractor. Silas waded knee-deep in the mud, secured the chain, and gave me the signal, steady pull. The SUV jerked, lurched forward, and then a deep, wet sound cut through the storm. Schlurp. The ground gave way beneath it. In one slow, graceful motion, the whole vehicle slid nose first into Sweetwater Creek. The splash was enormous. Brown water exploding upward, rushing over the bank. The water swallowed it whole. Silence followed. Even Laura stopped shouting. She just stared, mouth open, watching her symbol of control sink into the land she'd tried to own. Sheriff Bob broke the silence. Well, he said softly, that's one way to enforce property code. Silas wiped rain from his face. Nature's Enforcement Division works faster than paperwork, Bob. Laura's voice was hoarse now. You'll regret this, all of you. Silas looked at her. Ma'am, you already paid for it. In arrogance and unpaid respect. By noon the next day, Sheriff Bob was back with a folder. Filed and witnessed, Ethan. You're clear, Silas. Full compliance with Texas Property Code. County attorney says it's one of the cleanest lawful removals he's ever seen. He handed over another sheet. Laura Vance, charged with trespassing, property damage, false claims, and filing fraudulent survey documents with the county office. He looked at Silas. Those old maps of yours, the originals, they're what cracked the whole thing open. She never had a claim. Silas just smiled faintly. Truth's slow, he said, but it don't die easy. That afternoon, neighbors came by to shake hands. The local paper ran the headline. Pine Creek director faces legal probe after SUV incident. Later that week, Maya came back with news. Laura's been suspended from Pine Creek redevelopment. Corporate called it a serious breach. Her own board threw her under the bus. Silas nodded. That's how empires crumble, Ethan. From the top down, one cowardly memo at a time. Maya continued. The county wants copies of your maps for permanent record. They're revising the land boundaries officially. 2 months later, Maya finalized the settlement. Compensation for property damage, legal costs, and emotional distress. And an official apology from Pine Creek's board of directors. Silas raised an eyebrow. I don't need an apology, ma'am. Just make sure they stay on their side of the creek. She smiled thinly. They will. I think your little mud lesson went viral inside their corporate Slack. Someone leaked the sheriff's footage. You're trending in 3 counties as the farmer who sunk the HOA. That night, the house was quiet again. Silas sat by the fire, notebook in hand. He wrote one last entry. Dispute settled. Creek runs clear. See, Ethan, when folks forget where the lines are, life's job is to remind them. Sometimes it takes a lawyer. Sometimes it takes a storm. And sometimes it just takes one old man with a chain and a conscience. We buried him on the ridge that winter, facing the water. The sheriff spoke, and Maya read a few words from his notebook. Her voice trembled when she reached the last line he'd ever written. Peace is earned, not given. And the proof of a life well lived is that the land still calls your name when you're gone. Every time I walk down to Sweetwater Creek now, I see that same patch of earth where the SUV sank, and the grass has grown thicker there than anywhere else. It's like the land's way of saying thank you. So, if you're fighting your own battle against the paperwork tyrants, remember Silas's lesson. You can't rush the land, but you can work it, care for it, and trust that the truth will yield when it's ready. The flood washed away a truck, a lie, and a little bit of arrogance, but it left behind what mattered most: roots, law, and memory. Let me know in the comments below if you think the sheriff was right to let Silas handle the removal, or if Laura Vance had a point about the encroachment. Tell me your thoughts on what true progress really means. And if you appreciate this story about fighting for what's right, hit that subscribe button, because sometimes all it takes is one old man, a chain, and a conscience to stop arrogance cold.